There is a spot mid barren hills where winter howls and driving rain, but if the dreary tempest chills, there is a light that warms again. The mute bird sitting on the stone, the dank moss dripping from the wall, the thorn trees gaunt, the walls o'ergrown. I love them, how I love them all. A little and a lone green lane that opened on a common wide, a distant dreamy dim blue chain of mountains circling every side, a heaven so clear and earth so calm, so sweet, so soft, so hushed an air, and deepening still the dreamlike charm, wild moor sheep feeding everywhere. That was the scene. I knew it well. I knew the turfy pathways sweep, that winding o'er each billowy swell marked out the track of wandering sheep.
Who wrote that?
Emily.
Emily Dickinson?
No. Bronte. Jesus Christ, we're not in America. God, how could you have done that, said that? Amazing. All right. You want to hear another one?
Uh-huh.
All right. All right. Are you ready for this? Wordsworth is remembering his boyhood. Let me find it. The sounding cataract. You know what that means? Waterfall. Okay. The sounding cataract haunted me like a passion. The tall rock, the mountain in the deep and gloomy wood, their colors and their forms were then to me an appetite, a feeling, and a love. Beneath the mutation of year and season, flood and drought, frost and fire and thunder, the frothy blossom of the rowan, and the reddening of the berries, the silt, the sand, the slag bank, and the shingle, and the wild catastrophe of the breaking mountains. There stands the base and root of the living rock, 30,000 feet of solid Cumberland. The rock goes down so deep. Isn't that awesome? You didn't understand those words, though, did you? A rowan is a kind of tree, rowan tree, and it has berries, red berries. Okay, silt. You know what silt is? It's like sand. Slag banks. Shingle is little beaches, little stony beaches. The shingle. The breaking mountains, the mountains are falling apart. They always are, right? That's where you get all the boulders at the foot of the mountain. There stands the base and root of the living rock. 30,000 feet of solid Cumberland. It's a county, Cumberland. Oh, here's a great poem. Oh, this is fantastic. Listen to this. This is Wordsworth speaking now, all right? No room for mourning. He's gone out into the noisy glen, or stands between the stones of the gaunt ridge. Or you'll hear his shout rolling among the screes. The boulders, the small ones. he being a boy again. He'll never fail nor die. And if they laid his bones in the wet vaults of iron sarcophagi of fame, he'd rise at the first summer rain and stride across the hills to seek his rest among the broken lands and clouds. He was a stormy day. Isn't that incredible? He was a stormy day. A granite peak spearing the sky. And look, about its base, words flower like crocuses in the hanging woods, blank though the dale head and the bony face. Wow, isn't that awesome? He was a stormy day, a granite peak spearing the sky. And he spoke his words, right? And about its base, the base of the peak, words flower like crocuses, they come up in the spring, and in the hanging woods, blank though the dale head and the bony face. The dale head is the moors, sort of, they're blank, they look bony. Isn't that awesome? That is great poetry. Wow. This woman is awesome.
Who is she?
Jaquetta Hawks. Jaquetta Hawks. Isn't that great? Wow, what a writer. Wow. Let me see if I can find something else that she wrote that's awesome. I have to read this again. Listen to this. Are you ready? Rodin, Rodin, the sculptor, French sculptor, pursued the idea of conscious spiritual man emerging from the rock. Because you'll only see from the waist up, right? It's called out of the block, right? Carving out of the block. You release, the image. The Eskimos did that with their sculpture. They sculptured in bone. Okay, ivory. All right. Now, she's praising this guy, Henry Moore. She thinks he's better than Rodin. Okay, deeper. Okay. Rodin pursued the idea of conscious... Wait a minute, let me get further up here. Do you want to hear some more?
Yes, read.
All right. Here she goes. Some feeling that represents the converse. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, here we go. I have never forgotten my own excitement on seeing in a Greek expedition an unfinished statue in which the upper part of the body was perfect, though the head still carried a mantle of chaos, while the lower part disappeared into a rough block of stone. I felt that the limbs were already in existence, that the sculptor had merely been uncovering them. For his soundings were there, little tunnels reaching towards the position of the legs, feeling for them in the depths of the stone. The sculptor is in fact doing this, for the act of creation is in his mind, From his mind, the form is projected into the heart of the stone, where then the chisel must reach it. Rodin was one of the sculptors most conscious of these emotions and most ready to exploit them. He expressed both aspects of the process, man merging back into the rock and man detaching himself from it by the power of life and mind. He was perhaps inclined to sentimentalize the relationship by dwelling on the softness of the flesh in contrast with the rock's hardness. He was French. This was an irrelevance not dreamt of by the greatest exponent of the feeling, Michelangelo. It is fitting that the creator of the mighty figures of night and day, have you seen them? His figures of night and day, they're awesome, should himself have spent many days in the marble quarries of Tuscany, supervising the removal of his material from the side of the mountain. They wanted to give him the stuff that was on the top, that it wasn't that good, because they didn't want to work hard and go deeper. He went there and forced them to go deep. He supervised it. He wanted good marble. I read this in a book on him, biography I read on Michelangelo.
That's interesting.
Isn't it? Yeah. So conscious was he of the individual quality of the marble and its influence on sculpture and architecture that he was willing to endure a long struggle with the Pope. The Pope wanted it done fast, which meant he wanted the surface marble. He wanted him to get, he'd pay for that. He had a struggle with the Pope to get the good stuff because it took longer. So conscious was he of the individual quality of the marble and of its influence on sculpture and architecture that he was willing to endure a long struggle with the Pope, and at last to suffer heavy financial loss by maintaining the superiority of Carrara over Cerveza marble. These are two different quarries. Carrara marble was the good stuff. Michelangelo was an Italian working with Italian marble and Italian light. It's a different light than in Britain. It's not gray. With us, it has been unfortunate that since medieval times, so many of our sculptors have sought the prestige of foreign stones rather than following the idiom of their native rock. That's how it is. The grass is always green in the other fellow's yard. Henry Moore wasn't that way. He liked the native stone. And so doesn't she. Like everything about Britain, she really loves her country. All right. It is part of the wisdom of our greatest sculptor, Henry Moore, to have returned to English stones and used them with a subtle sensitiveness for their personal qualities. He may have inherited something from his father, who was a miner, spending his working life in the carboniferous horizons of Yorkshire, the coalfields. Must have had a direct understanding not only of coal, but of the sandstones and shales in which it lies buried, and on which the life of the miner depends. If it breaks when they're under there, they'll die, It has to be solid. Henry Moore has himself made studies of miners at work, showing their bodies very intimate with the rock, yet charged with a life that separates them from it. Graham Sutherland, in his studies of tin mines, became preoccupied with the hollow forms of the tunnels, and in them his men appear almost embryonic. The tunnels are hollow, right? And they look like they're coming out of the womb, Isn't that awesome? Henry Moore uses his understanding of the personality of stone in his sculpture, allowing their individual qualities to contribute to his conception. Indeed, he may for a moment be regarded in the passive role of a sympathetic agent giving expression to the stone, to the silting of ocean beds shown in those fine bands that curve with the sculptor's curves. It used to be under the ocean. that stone. You see what I mean? He senses that. The fine bands, horizontal bands, that curve with the sculpture's curves. Okay? And to the quality of the light that shows itself in the delicate markings made by shells, corals, and sea lilies petrified in the rock. Do you understand? Isn't this awesome? It would certainly be inappropriate to his time if Moore habitually used the Italian marbles so much in favor since the Renaissance. She says that's inappropriate. Let's use our own stone. For this fashion shows how man, in his greatest pride of conscious isolation, wanted stone, which was no more than a beautiful material for his mastery. He needed a game to play, to bring out his qualities. And it was sculpting hard stone. It's a challenge, right? Now, when our minds are recalling the past and our own origins deep within it, okay, Moore reflects a greater humility in avoiding the white silence of marble and allowing his stone to speak. That is why he has often chosen a stone like Hornton, a rock from the Lias. This is an area in Britain, England, that is full of fossils, petrified little animals, tribalites and stuff. You've heard of it, right? All of which make their statement when exposed by his chisel. Sometimes the stone may be so assertive of its own qualities that he has to battle with it, strive against the hardness of its shells and the softness of adjacent pockets to make them not efface themselves, but conform to his idea. His sense of a force thrusting from within, which must be expressed by taut lines without weakness of surface. Isn't she a trip?
Yeah.
Moore uses, she thinks more like a man, doesn't she? Very masculine. Moore uses Hornton stone also because it has two colors, a very pale brown and a green with deeper tones in it. Listen to this. This is important. The first serves him when he is conscious of his subject as a light one. Okay? Then he uses the brown. It's not that, it's light brown. The green when it must have darkness in it. So, the Horton has both colors in it. Liassic lakes, from the Lias area where they have that stone, it's a geographic term, Liassic lakes. There were lakes there way back, when the stone originated. Liassic lakes probably caused the change in color of Hornton stone. The water changed the color, made it have color. And so past estimates are reflected in the feeling of these sculptures. As for you can feel that age, a period of time when you look at his sculptures. As for the sculptor's sense of light or darkness inherent in his subjects, it is my belief that it derives in large part from the perpetual experience of day and night, to which all consciousness has been subject since its beginnings. Isn't that deep? It evokes in her, right, in Henry Moore, in anyone who understands, the sense of day and night, perpetual day and night, the dark and the light color in the stone, in the way he uses it. Isn't that awesome? That's really deep. I mean, wow, what a thought, huh? Here it is again, right? The sense of light and darkness, the brown and the green, seems to go to the depths of man's mind. Let me start again here. Here it is. As for the sculptor's sense of light or darkness inherent in his subjects, the rocks, right? It is my belief that it derives in large part. In other words, she's saying that his sense of the significance of the light and darkness in the rock, the two different colors, what he's really sensing subconsciously is perpetual day and night. The cosmic. Isn't that awesome? That really is one of the deepest thoughts in this book. Believe me. All right? The sense of light and darkness seems to go, listen, from the perpetual experience, right, of day and night to which all consciousness has been subject since its beginnings. You have to go to sleep and then wake up, right? This is really incredible, isn't it? The sense of light and darkness seems to go to the depths of men's mind, and whether it is applied to morality, good and evil, opposites, light and darkness, you know, evil's the dark, right? We're talking symbolism here, you know, subconscious. The sense of light and darkness seems to go to the depths of men's mind, and whether it is applied to morality, to aesthetics, or to that more general conception, the light of intellectual processes in contrast with the darkness of the subconscious. Its symbolism surely draws from our constant swing below the cone of night.